All right, man, peace. So, brothers, one of the stories that is currently making the rounds throughout the liberal sports media is Masai Ujiri, the super general manager of the Toronto Raptors, allegedly being subjected to quote-unquote racism by a deputy sheriff in Oracle Arena in the aftermath of the Toronto Raptors winning their first NBA championship last season. But if you pay very close attention to the footage, you'll quickly understand why the deputy sheriff alleges what he alleges. Now, I'm not saying that there are not many quote-unquote racist police officers, but if you watch multiple angles of what occurred, you can see why Masai Ujiri claims that he's the quote-unquote victim of racism, but you can also see why the deputy sheriff states what he states. That's why you have to pay attention to various camera angles. Of course, there are a lot of wokedies who are going to try to use this storyline to prove that racism exists. In 2020, if you're still trying to prove that racism exists, that means that you're probably an idiot. What we should be trying to prove as so-called black men is that we can rule, because that's the only thing that matters. Proving that quote-unquote racism exists is not going to help us. It's not going to help our women. It's not going to help our children. All it's going to do is once again substantiate the victimization mentality that currently is pervading the subconscious of the so-called black man, and we don't need that. We don't need that at all. But anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Welcome to the show. My name is Evan, along with Michael J. Babcock. What's up? WNBA superstar Renee Montgomery.
Hello there.
We're going to start with video that's honestly been pissing me off for hours.
Yes, it's pissing you off because you're a super liberal Caucasian Jew, and your job is to always put a battery in the back of low-level thinking so-called black people so that they can get angry at the white trash and not have anything to say to you, even though you're the one who is trying to abduct our history and our lineage. Of course, everything that I'm saying can be substantiated with empirical data and historical evidence.
Video has been getting under my skin since I watched it. It is finally, you're about to see the body cam footage of the sheriff's deputy who got into a physical altercation with Toronto's Raptor president, Masai Ujiri.
Yes, we are going to see the video evidence. And no disrespect to Masai Ujiri, but in my view, it confirms what the deputy sheriff alleges.
Following Game 6 of the NBA Finals in 2019, June 13th, at Oracle Arena.
He's a spectacular general manager, though. This is the guy that the Knicks should be willing to throw their entire organization at. I mean, this guy's spectacular.
Remember, there was an incident between the two men where the sheriff's deputy had accused.
Now, brothers, pay very close attention to this angle. What you're going to see is Masai Ujiri approach the basketball floor as the Toronto Raptors are wrapping up their victory over the Golden State Warriors. The deputy sheriff is going to try to stop him along his way. I'm guessing that maybe he's asking him for some type of identification or a validation that he should be able to have access to the floor. Masai Ujiri, instead of pulling out his pass, is going to try to walk right through the sheriff deputy and then pull out the pass once he's almost past him and like make a flourish with his arm as if like, peasant, get the fuck out my way. Here's my pass and I'm going to show it to you as I walk by because I'm a champion and you're not, you're a loser. Like that type of vibe. So I can see why the deputy sheriff pushed him back like, dude, show me your fucking pass before you get past me. Now, I will say this. It's very obvious that Masai Ujiri, number one, should have been recognized by the deputy sheriff already, even before the game. There should be a list of people that the sheriff's deputy and security in general should be familiar with just by facial recognition. He should know who Masai Ujiri is already so that when this person approaches the court, there's no confusion. So it's very clear that there's some poor training going on across these stadiums in the NBA, the NFL, etc. Beyond that, Masai Ujiri is clearly dressed as a businessman. I doubt that someone dressed like that is approaching the basketball floor to cause any type of a ruckus. But at the end of the day, just in regards to protocol and how Masai Ujiri handled himself, I can see why the deputy sheriff made the allegations that he made, that Masai Ujiri pushed him first. So let's see what happens here. Pay very close attention.
Masai of trying to force his way onto the court and then accused Masai of getting physical with him.
Now at this point right here, Masai is starting to open up his blazer. But he should have pulled the pass out already. Look at what he does.
Injuring him in an unprovoked.
Look, he's almost past him. Now he's going to pull out the pass forcefully while he's trying to basically bum rush his way past the security. I'm going to rewind this back a little bit. Once again, pay very close attention here.
Injuring him in an unprovoked attack.
You see that? It was only after Masai basically tried to big time him that the guy got mad. Now you could say that he was being unprofessional, and he probably should get reprimanded for what he did in putting his hands on Masai in that fashion. But I could see why he thought that that dude was going to just try to big time him and walk right past without showing his ID. He's going to be reprimanded, and of course, I'm pretty sure that his court case is going to get dropped. Or maybe it won't. Who knows? Maybe the judge will watch this footage and say, I can see why you said what you said. But this notion that Masai Ujiri was just proceeding as if nothing was wrong and he was obeying proper protocol and respecting the security staff, I don't see that here. I see someone who was basically trying to big time the security guard.
Deputy alleged. Remember this? And they filed.
I remember.
The sheriff's office had said they were going to try and pursue charges against Masai, and they painted him out as this violent, unhinged man who was trying.
No, Masai is not violent or unhinged, or at least that's not what this video footage shows. Who knows what's going on in his private life? Who knows what's going on in anybody's private life? But just this footage right here, he tried to big time that security guard, man. He was like, get out of my way. He was like Prince Akeem from Coming to America, or Simi. Get my luggage.
Really try to aggressively, irresponsibly try to violently trying to get onto the court to celebrate with his team. Well, guess what? Officials have now released the body cam video, and to even imply anything about Masai being an antagonizer or an instigator is completely wrong. In my opinion, it's a smoking gun video that shows that the sheriff's deputy was the one in the wrong from the jump.
Well, he was wrong for losing his composure. That's what the sheriff's deputy was wrong about. But Masai is not blameless here.
Hands on Masai, not once, but twice, very aggressively. Here is the body cam footage. Take a look.
Now, when you look at this footage, it looks like Masai is just walking through and obeying all the proper protocols and just gets deboed by the security guard. But from what we saw from the initial footage, you saw what actually happened. The security guard said, back the fuck up. I'm mad as hell. I lost $2,000 on this game, bitch. Masai said, I'm the president of the Raptors. How could you push me like this? I could buy your life.
You saw the sheriff's deputy push Masai as Masai was in the process of pulling out his credentials to show the officer, hey, look, man, I'm supposed to be.
Don't put your hands on my clothes. I'm a prince in my country.
He says after the first shove, I'm the president of the Raptors. He identifies himself. And then the deputy responds by a two-hand shove, again, pushes him again. Masai could not have been more respectful, more appropriate, less threatening. I mean, this is not a threatening situation from Masai Ujiri.
You could see that he was trying to pull out his credentials as he approached the security guard or the sheriff's deputy or what have you. But he definitely did a little flourish once he got chest to chest with the security guard. And I guess that the guy felt emasculated. Once again, he should not have done what he did. But this notion that Masai was blameless, no, I'm not going to go that far. But the sheriff's deputy should have been familiar with Masai just by facial recognition.
Masai Ujiri was reaching into his pocket to show the officer his credentials. He was walking up. He wasn't like a bull in a china shop here. There was nothing crazy about this.
I mean, but just aesthetically, look at Masai. Okay, you look at him, he doesn't look like someone that's going to try to rush the court that shouldn't rush the court. Like, so let's just take, because I always...
See, now right here would have Kurt look different. I always make the point of whenever I'm going into a building where I know that I have to show some type of credentials or identification, I have my ID out to show to whoever's at the front desk or what have you, already ready. I'm not going to wait. You know, you have to go into buildings sometimes. You have to enter the elevator, but before you're able to do so, you have to show your identification to someone at the front desk or what have you. I'm not going to walk right past them and just flash my ID real quick and try to get to the elevator. Of course, they're going to assume that something is suspicious. When you look at this angle right here, Masai he basically was fiddling around with his inside pocket. You could see the strap of the credentials, but he didn't bring it out until he was almost past the security guard. And he did appear to try to just walk past him like he was a nobody.
Look at common sense first. Common sense, people don't dress like that to go to basketball games, right?
I would agree with that.
So the cop sees that already, or the security guard on duty, you see that already. The second thing is he's actually trying to talk to you. I understand someone just ran a championship. It's probably a lot going on.
Masai pushed him back like, what now, bitch? I have backup.
The argument. Yeah, he probably couldn't hear him. There's a lot going on. He was just trying to protect the players. That sounds all well and good, but you can't pass the common sense test. Common sense says that this is a businessman at a game, and we know what the businessman at a game look like. So then on top of that, he's trying to tell him, hey, look, I'm not just a fan, I'm the president. And so people wonder why Jimmy Butler doesn't want to put a name on the back of his jersey because he said, when I leave the arena, I'm just a black man. This is exactly what he means.
Yeah, look.
Right, but this is what annoys me about a lot of these woke so-called black women. They try to use the energy of the so-called black man and the quote-unquote plight of the so-called black man to get attention for themselves. If you truly care about what the so-called black man goes through, the best way that you can alleviate that is by being a dutiful wife to your man. Renee, whatever her name is, this co-host on this show, TMZ Sports, is a lesbian. You're not helping us by running around licking out some other woman. We need the so-called black woman to get herself in proper order and be the wife and the mother that she's supposed to be. But my channel is about what the so-called black man needs to do. The so-called black woman cannot get in order until the so-called black man is in order because the man is the head.
The officer should be fired because, one, the bottom line is that he lied about what happened. We now see exactly what went down on the body cam. The video footage does not lie, never does, and I'm
not quite sure if he lied about what happened. If you see that other angle, you can see why he states what he states. The security guard I'm talking about.
I think the officer should be fired. I don't know if race had anything to do with.
Well, he should be fired for incompetence. He should be able to recognize Masai Ujiri. That's not a nobody. He should be fired for incompetence, if nothing else.
The officers.
And escalating a situation that did not need to be escalated.
I think that would be, purely speculative. But
that's why I didn't even read into it.
Let me rewind this back a little bit because Babcock is now going into the race angle.
I don't know if race had anything to do with the officer's actions. I think that would be, purely speculative. But
that's why I didn't even read into it.
Well, most quote-unquote racial situations are speculative. Most racism today is not overt. Most of it is covert. Most of it is actually racialism. A lot of so-called black people suffer from racialism, by the way. A lot of us infer negative things about one another because of certain quote-unquote stereotypes or maybe even actualities that exist that pervade our people, certain conditions that pervade our people, where we assume the worst because that's what we've experienced in the past.
Look,
yeah.
Common
but
sense.
I think the bottom line is this can't happen because this is bigger than just one situation. Because what this does is this undermines the relationship and the trust between the police officer, the law enforcement community, and the communities that they are tasked to protect and serve. And when you have something like this that has now gotten a ton of attention, rightfully so, then people think that all cops are bad, and that's not the case. But it is what people are seeing, so you can't fault people then for thinking that way and for having that ideology because you're seeing bad cops on video doing bad things. So this is not just damaging to Masai Ujiri, to this cop's career, it's damaging to the entire country as a whole, and this stuff cannot happen. I think this officer should be fired, an example should be made out of him, his lawsuit should be thrown away, and he should never work in law enforcement again.
Yeah, as you see in this other angle, by the way.
That sounds like a bit much, but I mean, hey, it's up to you. Over a shove, you want him to never work in law enforcement again, I would have to check his file and see what he's been involved in the past. That's why there needs to be more transparency when it comes to a lot of the situations that these quote-unquote officers are involved in. But I'm not quite sure that I would go that far, that he should never be in law enforcement again over a shove when it comes to someone who clearly was trying to debo him. Masai was trying to debo him. It was like, out of the way, you silly caveman.
That Masai did push back after he was already shoved twice.
Well, he tried to swoop through first. Then the white man got upset, and then Masai got upset back.
The deputy here, his name is Alan Strickland, claims, remember, he sued Ujiri, the Raptors, the NBA, and others, claiming that he suffered injuries in this incident, claiming that...
That's some bullshit. The only thing that was injured was his pride, after he found out who he got into the altercation with.
Injured his jaw, his head, his face.
All lies, and this is what I think about as well. If this wasn't...
Shit like that is why he should have been fired. You know, when someone will lie like that, who knows what else he's lied about. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did open up his file that they found some previous incidents that occurred between himself and other people.
President of the Raptors, how would have this played out? You know, like, so that's what is the most alarming thing. This is the president of the Raptors, so you know that he has the money, he has the influence, he has enough that it takes to take this thing all the way to get the truth. But if this was just a regular Joe Smo, we don't know how that would have ended. He might have actually been successful in pressing charges.
Well, we know how it would have ended. I mean, if it was a regular person who got into an altercation with a police officer who was mentally disturbed, you know, in the outside world, or maybe in an environment where no one else was around, Masai probably would have gotten shot and killed. And the cop would have claimed that he was in fear for his life.
And that's the thing that bothers people.
Yeah, just one correction, Renee. It's Joe Schmo with the SCH. You got to get the schma in there. It's a very
My bad to the Joe Schmo.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. I just noticed the footage, and of course the media was extremely outraged. And it was a ridiculous incident. But there were some other aspects to this narrative that needed to be noted. So peace.